Hey, check. What's up, guys? Voice crack. Get the voice cracks out. Let's just roll.
Yeah.
Call it good. We're starting. What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome to podcast number 14, I think. We had a week off hiatus. Not sponsored by Liquid Death.
I wish. I was about to say that.
maybe
and
one day.
not beer, don't worry. Just Liquid Death.
But
But yeah,
yeah.
what's up, guys?
We were in Phoenix right up. Let's just talk about Phoenix right off the bat for
Phoenix.
the documentary. So that was our first time in Phoenix. We were there for a week. Again, why we missed the documentary. Why we missed the podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
It was a lot of fun. It was a super inspiring trip. We
Yeah.
got to meet two ends of the nerdcore spectrum, so to speak. We had the OG, one of the OGs, Mega Ran, and then we also hung out with Charlie, CG5. So
It was one of the newer guys.
Really
So it was like
awesome experience.
the new
Yeah,
and
the new and the old.
the old. And
Um,
we'll get into that more, but it's funny because we always call out like Mega Ran and like MC Frontlot as like the OGs, and they are. But it's as we get older, we're getting closer to them. You know what I mean?
We are grouped in with
Yeah.
because really, you think about, they did come before us, and it felt like they came long before us, even though we weren't aware of
Yeah.
the nerdcore scene until we got into YouTube and started doing it ourselves. They are only a few years before us, really. Well, close to
More
a
Mega Ran is,
decade.
but
Yeah,
well,
like
so
MC
the-
Frontalot started in like
99.
2000. Yeah, 99.
and then I think Mega Ran is 06 is his first thing. I could be way off,
Mhm.
but our first was 08. You know,
Mhm.
but again, like Nerdcore, 2022 and 1999. Let's just call it between 1999 and 2022.
Yeah.
That's what,
The
23 years?
aughts, basically the aughts.
Yeah, that's 23 years, and we've been doing this for 15 years. So 23 minus 15 is
Yeah.
8. So there's
Basically,
only
you realize that we
I don't
are
know.
closer to the
Yeah, we're-
OGs, to the godfathers of nerdcore.
Yeah.
What we're trying to say, long about way of saying we're getting old.
Yeah.
But it
and it's interesting our place in the story. You know,
Uh-huh.
as we're exploring this documentary and the story of Nerdcore, it's like, oh, we're kind of like in some ways in the origin, particularly the origin of YouTube. But anyways,
Yeah.
Phoenix, Arizona is where we went to
Mm-hmm.
hang out with those guys. First, we hung out and interviewed and filmed Mega Ran.
Mm-hmm.
We had met him very briefly at PAX South 2017. We did a Nerdcore panel with Rocket and some other guys,
yeah.
and Mega Ran came up and introduced himself to us. Like he was in the back, you know, just watching this this panel, this interesting panel that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and introduced himself, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And interesting considering the content of that
That panel.
the panel was
Yeah.
very like businessy. It was an interesting. We talked about it before, how the Rocket Gaming guys like thought it was like a pitch to the industry, which it wasn't. It was just a panel, and so it's just very interesting that Mega Ran was there for that.
There was this weird vibe on the panel that was kind of like, oh, look at Nerdcore, it's growing, it's gonna become mainstream, but at the same time, Nerdcore, as it was founded, was to be the polar opposite of mainstream.
It wasn't
was
meant to be
very
cool.
niche.
It was meant to be niche.
So, and that's kind of what we're exploring with this documentary as nerdcore grows as a space. Like, I know some people, there's some points of, not really contention, but like the definition of nerdcore, has it changed? I think there are probably some people out there who would consider what we do, like video game music, not specifically nerdcore, and,
Yeah.
which I don't really care. You call it what you want. We've kind of talked about this
Yeah.
before, but it is going to be interesting to just see what it means to different people. And the way I like to look at it, this is just going to be a really cool look at the independent music space and content creation in general, our documentary speaking specifically. Sorry, I'm kind of just going off right
No,
here.
that's
but,
good.
Yeah,
and, I
it's-
mean, there's a lot of reflection and motivation and inspiration from these trips every time, and it's
Yeah.
always from
Oh,
different
so much.
angles. You know, I think like Charlie's studio and his process in a big way, and then just Mega Ran's approach.
Mhm.
You know, kind of his outlook on life, and it's just, I don't know, his pace. You know, is a lot more something we like too. Kind of the slower, more methodical, appreciative. Not to say anyone else isn't, but like that's just like that's what I got his approach and vibe was.
Yeah.
Um,
And finding a lot more meaning in what he's doing, which I am not as familiar with Mega Ran's story as I am with like the YouTube nerdcore guys. But it was interesting to see their different artistic approaches. And it always is. I joked at one point on the trip, like, some people like watching sports. I like watching other musicians create. It's like, I get the same effect that people get with a Let's Play. You watch a Let's Play because you want to see the video game, but you don't want to have the reins. You want somebody else in control. I love watching other musicians work, even though I am thinking in the background, I'm thinking, oh, I would have done this like that, or I would add this. I also like to sit back and watch them do their thing. So those brief moments where we got to watch Charlie work or Mega Ran work were really cool. And just seeing, different approaches and also it's really cool when another artist like takes you into their world. You know, it's
how welcoming everyone is.
Yeah,
because we do invade their lives for a couple days, and it's everyone's always so hospitable and like they're all about it. So it's a fun process. I do want to talk about Arizona a little bit and the food because that was fun.
Let's talk about Arizona.
We do have much more ahead, and I'm looking forward to getting into the lives of the other people that we have left.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Way too dry. I also went there. I think hopefully today I am fully over this head cold I had, but the air was so dry.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. Love that Red Dead Redemption biome,
Red
dude.
Dead Redemption.
It's so cool. I love those random rock structures, and like it just looks like something for somebody who doesn't spend a lot of time out in the West. It's straight out of the games and the books. So that was my favorite part about Arizona,
like the nature and the natural beauty of it.
The cactuses.
The cactuses, like 10 out of 10. Very cool.
The cactuses are straight out of a cartoon. Like the only thing I regret that we didn't get to see any tumbleweeds. But
so like nature and all that stuff, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh yeah.
Food, amazing. We went to a bunch of spots, but one place we went to is
best Mexican.
Yeah. So we went to La Santisma, just gourmet taco, like just really good Mexican.
Ruined Mexican food for me.
Yeah.
That was real Mexican food. The salsa bar, oh my God.
Even the plates they brought out were, just everything about it was like.
The Oaxacan cheese. Dude,
yeah.
the Oaxacan cheese was a sexual experience. I'm sorry, graphic.
It was queso, and it wasn't cheese dip queso. It was like actual like baked cheese with chorizo in it, like a blend of cheeses. It was like a Mexican mozzarella, kind of almost.
It was too good.
Really good.
It was so.
I tried mole.
An ethereal experience.
I never had done that, but this place is renowned for it.
Yeah.
And I was like melted, bitter chocolate sauce. Taco. I was like, I gotta try this.
Sounds gross to me, but I'm proud of you for trying it.
I tried it. I'm a big chocolate guy. I like Mexican food a lot. It's an interesting combination. Never had mole, so it was good. Especially like, arguably from what I heard, one of the best out there. But it wasn't like, it just like didn't deliver a spot for me in terms of like meal or like the sweet and savory. Like I don't know where it fit.
It's not for
It's
your
like
palate.
a chocolatey chicken, like. Or chocolatey meat. It was interesting. I don't know where it falls in the meal kind of line for me. Maybe something I could grow into, but yeah, food is amazing. Horchata, best horchata I've ever had.
Yep.
There was like
Easily.
berries and cinnamon and
I think they put mango and orange
and nuts. Like it had such a good taste. Like La Santisma, go there if you're in Phoenix. And then we also went to a place called Chino Bandito, which is a Chinese, Mexican, and a little bit of Caribbean fusion place. And it's kind of like a fast casual vibe, like think like Chipotle-ish.
Yeah, it is very kind of not the healthiest option, but really good, really
good.
delicious.
We had a red jade.
We just got what Mega Ran got.
Yeah.
We just followed Mega Ran, and he did not steer us wrong. It was delicious, though.
Yeah.
We got such a great food experience in Phoenix. I loved everything. And we went to this fancy Mediterranean place, too.
Yep, California Mediterranean style place. We went to like an American bar that was like all Phoenix and good. And then we went to Snooze AM Eatery. You had the best pancake of your life.
Best pancake. I got Mexican food ruined for me and pancakes ruined for me.
Yeah, and Snooze AM Eatery is is a chain. It's just not a super proliferated chain. So,
We should franchise one
yeah.
in Raleigh.
The
It was
OMG
so
French toast is so good. It's all over the country and like kind of a little bit here, a little bit there. So go check that out. But if you're ever in Phoenix, that's the food scene's crazy, and we barely touched the surface of it. Phoenix itself is interesting. You know, there's a lot of cool, trendy cities that everyone's talking about that you go to, like Nashville or Austin, or you know the obvious ones, New York City, Chicago. And when you go, they usually deliver like, oh, this is fucking cool. I get it. And Phoenix, the city itself, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is just suburban sprawl on a grid. And we were all over Phoenix. We were in north, south, and then kind of everywhere in between, east and west. And it was all the same. It was all the same American franchise restaurants. Like there's good like food. Obviously, you can go find, but like at any point, you feel like you could be anywhere in Phoenix. Like
Yeah.
the suburban sprawl placelessness is off the charts. And you used to think like Raleigh and like the DMV, like the Northern Virginia area was placeless, but that's on a whole different scale.
It's huge, and
it all looks the
there's-
same.
Yeah, we didn't
like-
explore too in depth. Well, we did see all over.
But,
It
like,
just didn't have as much.
My thing is like every city we've gone to, I've seen enough to have an opinion and really like it.
Oh no, for sure.
And so I feel
This-
like we spent a week here, but we spent a weekend in other places, you know?
Yeah, it didn't
So, like-
feel. It didn't feel. There wasn't a charm. It was missing a charm. Sorry, Phoenix. It just was. Also, if you've been to Vegas before, you think of Vegas as this oasis in a desert
Mm-hmm.
valley, and it's like this beautiful, like absolutely decadent city, and then you have Phoenix, which is in a similar kind of valley, but it's just obviously it's not Vegas. So I think in my head I was comparing it to Vegas being in a similar kind of biome,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, this is like Diet Vegas or something. Not even Diet Vegas. It's nowhere
Yeah.
near Vegas.
But I get why the quality of life there is good, especially for people coming from California,
Yeah,
where it's less crowded,
and it's
where
a,
it's cheaper, like not cheaper, but cost of living's lower. Like
it's
I
a
get
good place
it.
to be a YouTuber, right? Because
That
like you
too,
don't
yeah.
get taxed a lot. There's
And you have a
not,
proximity to LA if you need it.
Mhm. Yeah, good
Like
place
the
to
laws
do
aren't
YouTube.
as overbearing as California, and the taxing isn't as bad. Like all these things, I get why it's a destination, especially if you're on the West Coast and you don't want to go far from home. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But maybe I just had too high expectations for all the popularity and raving and growing it's been through. But
It was also so spread out too.
yeah, it's very interesting. It's like that you have to have a car to live there. I'm sure there's public
The-
transportation, but
The
geez,
valley's huge.
yeah,
It doesn't feel like a valley because you look around. I think one of the coolest things about the scenery is just how there's this ring of mountains around the entire place, but it's absolutely like huge. It's unfathomably
Yeah.
big when you're flying in. It's just, you don't even think of it as a valley. It is like its own desert. It technically is a valley because it's
Yeah.
nestled in these mountains, but like, it's just cool. It's
And
a very cool biome.
we did go to a couple parks. We went to Papago Park.
Papago Park.
it's
Yeah,
right
and
in
we
the
got
mi-
to go inside a rock formation.
Yeah, there's like it's called Hole in Rock or something like that. That was neat.
I got to pretend to be a goblin. We
And
did
I-
a lot of goblin
yeah.
stuff.
And I do want to go back. Like that's the thing. Like it's like, oh, my fantasy of living here is like doesn't exist, but it's a cool place to visit. And it has cool things like food and then I think you get your bang for your buck if you visit there. If you get good food, maybe golf, which is kind of unethical with the water scarcity there and watering it, but like it's a unique experience, whatever. I'm trying to like argue why I want to go back. And then lastly, I do want to explore more of the fringes, go to the canyon, more hiking and stuff like that. I think that's where it really shines. But we were there for work and we were hanging out in the suburbs, in the sprawl. So yeah, but overall, like we were there for the people and the people were awesome. Just meeting everyone
Yeah.
involved in Mega Ran and CG's5's life, their support system, and then them themselves was a lot of fun. I think the last bit to focus in on is Charlie's home office is amazing and inspiring us to make. I mean, we already are like we got this studio, but like our personal workspaces, our offices, making those awesome places. Like my home office is awesome. It's my home office gaming room is way cooler than my office here.
Yeah.
It's like I need to. I don't know, and it's just a matter of doing it.
And
at this point.
I've always been a minimalist just with everything, and like even in my my studio right now, for those of you who've seen, it's like an office that I've set up a studio in. It's not really a studio. I don't have it sound paneled and everything officially yet, but I plan on doing that. But seeing Charlie's studio was definitely an inspiration to start doing that more. not just the look of it, but the sound and the feel going into his studio. And he was talking about how he has wood floors in there and he has this wood panel on the back. I didn't realize, I just assumed for a proper studio, you want it to be as dead as possible, but that's only for a vocal booth. You want it to be dead. You don't want your studio to be dead. And Charlie was talking about like the sonic qualities of wood and how you don't want when you're listening to your mixes. I won't get too pedantic here. It was just cool to learn more about like the science of acoustics.
Yeah.
And definitely, just like John said, inspiring for us to get our studios nice and sexy, because we've already got it looking real sexy in here.
We keep saying it, but we got our flats in, and then just got to start getting the production design in here and building the Doom set, which is cool. But I don't know, like.
We have our big, where are they? Some big wooden
you
walls.
Can see some of them, like this is the back side of it, but and we have four of them, so we get to make rooms and fake rooms. They're on wheels. There's one over there. There's one over there. There's two behind us behind the curtain.
So the film studio's set up, and we got the
Yeah.
sexy camera, but it's time to start setting up the
Got
office.
some extra lights. We got a Dana dolly, so we can do some cool. Like we're gonna do some cool stuff and use the space, with Wallaby in the music videos, and we're gonna do some other things on our own and just have fun with it. Like get back to having our hands on the camera, and messing around. It's gonna be fun.
Just like the good old days.
Yeah.
Just how we got this whole thing started is pretty damn cool.
Yep.
Pretty damn cool, because that's how it all started. Just making goofy videos.
So let's see, should we jump in the Game Awards or the?
I didn't watch the Game Awards, but you'll have to bring it up. But do we want to talk about that contentious tweet? The art of knowing the worth of your art.
Let me pull it up so I have it to reference. But there was there's this artist
story.
I think she had a lot of Silicon Valley, like a lot of hype. Like is a very talented artist and has been coming from like a place of really good employment, and then went freelance. And so
Should
one
we
of
say their name or no? Or
no,
it doesn't matter.
And then so and you can go look it up. But then they freelance work, blah blah blah, and got an offer from Fortnite Epic Games for loading screen art, I think. And the offer was $3,000, full license. Like it essentially becomes Epic's property.
Mm-hmm.
And they laughed at the offer and made it public. Like they gave me a laughable offer. And then from that became a whole pretty, like, from what I've seen, and even like you're ridiculous, whatever, and other people like defending it. And so there's a lot there to break down, but essentially the $3,000 offer was too low for that type of thing. That would have been one thing if they could have kept the rights and sold prints at conventions and whatnot. Was a big argument. And said if not, if you want a full license, then the baseline's a $15,000 payment. Mm-hmm. And the whole argument also is that it's Epic, a $6 billion company or whatever. So I think that's all the context given.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start here. One flaw in the argument, I get the point, but I think a flaw in the argument for the artist, ultimately, I think I'm on the artist side, but I think a flaw in the argument is just stating that it's a really valuable company. I don't think that necessarily helps. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I get the point that they were making when they were saying, oh, it's a $6 billion company. I could understand some leeway if you were independent or something. I get where you're coming from, but ultimately that argument kind of falls flat.
Also, if we break it down, it's a marketing team or a subset of a marketing team. It's like a couple people managing a budget.
Yeah, it's not.
They
like
aren't
the
experts. They don't
company.
represent the zeitgeist of not the zeitgeist, but they're not like, it's not this big monster. Like you're dealing with other humans down the line who have a budget, so it's not malicious. It's not like the CEO or what. Like if you're making that argument, then you're essentially applying the CEO offered you. I don't know, not really, but that's kind of what you're implying.
Yeah,
in a very abstract, simplified way, and I think that's where that falls apart. Yeah. And I think and ultimately, like, home is home, West Coast, but like if you are freelance, I would take advantage of not living in California, which it sounds like that's where they are, or somewhere where cost of living is very high. And like that's not ultimately a really broken point at all. That's just more like You know, that would help a lot of things, and maybe just don't take those $3K jobs, but like, I don't know, it's go to Arizona, you know, or whatever, for example, or Nevada. It's, but again, people's home is home. You can't really like, I don't know. That's a minor thing, but that was a point they were making, was like breaking down their agency's cut and then their cost of living, and then to what they can take home.
Yeah. The point, because at first I did, even as an artist myself, you'd think I'd be gung ho supporting the artist. At first I was like, well, geez, we've done a few commissioned songs before, and I've always said it's very important to know your worth. But the point that really made me side with the artist was learning about how Epic wanted full rights for $3,000. $3,000 for a piece of art that is going to be seen by millions upon millions of people over and over and over again, and they have complete exclusive rights. I can understand a $3,000 license if the artist gets to keep their the ownership of it. And so that was where I was like, oh, thinking about it long term, regardless of the worth of the company, again, because I think that's kind of a flaw in the argument, regardless of the worth of the company, for that art completely owning all of it, I was like, okay, I get that. That 15,000 seems a lot more graspable.
Also,
palpable.
Not
I
a
don't know.
hole in their argument, but it is an interesting thing. Like, they're very talented.
Yeah.
They have a higher bar, and I think like obviously that thing with Epic's one thing, but I think it's a mismatch of Epic not understanding their person they're prospecting, and I think it's that's why the artist like made an issue of it, because it was so different from what their standard is, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't like. I think the argument they made was at a flat line of like any artist. But I think like those were their standards, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a laughable offer for them, you know. And so like, and I don't think any artist is going to be out here thinking, oh, because of this precedent now, I should demand at least $10,000 for a illustration, you know. I don't think that's what it's implied, but that felt like kind of the implication, I guess. And I'd have to read it again. But ultimately, I think it was just like employees down the line, some 25-year-old kid managing a team just didn't understand the pedigree of this artist, didn't have a lot of leeway on the legal terms, you know, or whatever, and this artist was like guffawed at it, you know. But it was so much like back and forth the internet, and people were like bashing them, and then other people were like idolizing them as well, like on each side of it. So it was an interesting thing, but it was all I didn't see a lot of hostility, but it was a lot of like very opinionated what should be what.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was interesting.
I want to know how much communication went back and forth between the artist and whoever the representative from Epic was. Because if it was just a one-off thing and then they decided to blast Epic and call them Fart Night on Twitter, if that was after one exchange, I would think it's kind of petty. But if there had been a lot of negotiating trying to get them to give them more money, the artist trying to get Epic to give them more money, then I understand going public with it. But if it was just a couple exchanges, it's like, is this really worth, like,
this is what my agents and I asked for an amendment to their inquiry for copyright buyout, and then they said that the legal contracts team have set these conditions for a fee and terms, and they do not have the time or manpower to negotiate each one separately.
Okay.
Was the end quote. And that while I can post the deliverable on my website and social as a like kind of portfolio, they will not grant the rights to sell prints or let me repurpose the illustration for a different use case. For $3K minimum, I can let them use the illustration for maybe a year while I'm... Oh, that's a suggestion they had. So, like, maybe even a year minimum and then let me sell it as well. But it sounds like... but for Epic Games copyright buyout, $3,000 is nothing short of criminal, even if it's a few weeks of work.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to say is how, and you kind of touched on it, how unique is what you're doing. How unique is your style of art? Because the unfortunate thing is, and I haven't done my research on the artists. I did see some of their work. They look incredibly talented. But the realistic thing is, same with if I was making a song and was getting commissioned, they offered $3,000 for a song. How unique is the song I would bring, as opposed to them being able to find somebody else who would do it for less, is just a realistic way you have to look at it. So if they are extremely stylistic and for Epic really wants their specific art, they should have gone into it ready and willing to pay more. Sounds like they were just blasting out to a bunch of different graphic artists.
But also it's like maybe a campaign of like a curated thing, like a little bit more efforts put in terms of like their loading screens being this nice thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, maybe there was a amount of research and maybe it was a low ball, as well. Because it's like you reach out to someone like this because you want a curated, nice thing, these background arts or whatever. And I think loading screen arts are commoditized, whatever the word is. They are a commodity in Fortnite as something you can buy with V-Bucks. Like you can buy your own loading screen so that this loading screen pops up. So it's not like it's just in the game files.
Oh.
So that I don't know if they pointed that out, but that would be a big deal to point out, especially like that's a big deal to point out, actually.
Why didn't they mention that?
'Cause
they should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's a big argument in their favor. You can buy the loading screens?
I'm pretty sure it's like an unlockable thing in the store, and like
they should have mentioned that.
It's been
that
a while.
Would only strengthen their argument tenfold.
And I could be wrong because like Call of Duty also has it. I'm pretty sure Fortnite has it. Either way,
I do want to just say I think it's a good thing whether you think they're entitled or not, because I think whether you think they're entitled or not, I think as in general, a lot of artists and creative people, I feel like a lot of them, well, I guess it's changing, but I feel like a lot of them don't know their own worth, and that can be a hard thing, is to know the worth of your art.
Yeah.
And it's like the saying, dress for the job you want, upsell yourself sometimes. If you feel like they're lowballing you, upsell. I think it's better for the artist to upsell themselves than the corporation to lowball
There's always
them.
more money from these budgets that are being allocated.
Yeah,
and
which I kind of just contradicted myself because I said that is a faulty argument about the company being big. But I guess I'm just saying,
it's more so intrinsically in yourself. Like, assume they have a little bit more and see what we can push.
Yeah, and know your worth. Know your worth. That it's so important because
there's a lot of brand deals that do come through our door, but we like have a higher standard ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
More so because we don't want the music video to be tainted by an ad. But if it's a good enough offer from a product we do kind of like, then we'll do it, and then it can help fund like the studio or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a particular song, there has to again be the blend of an interest, like Genshin Impact. There's some interest there, and then the offer has to be right. And it's interesting, especially in the infancy of when nerdcore is really taken off on YouTube, and then brand deals are a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew what the pricing model was.
Yeah,
and so a lot of people were taking brand deals, for $400, which then brought the nerdcore offers down a lot, I think, across the board. It was like, well, this person did it for this. And, and so again, so that's another thing too, is maybe this offer was normalized within Epic because a lot of people were, accepting it. Yeah. And then you have this, whatever you want to say, more accomplished. I don't know how to stratify her. Or them. I don't know what the right language is not to be disrespectful to other artists. Like, maybe this more talented one. I don't know. I just don't have like this. They up here, I just don't know. Like, I think there was a normalization of a lower price that was being accepted by artists, and that's why Epic. That's what they offer because that's what everyone's accepting. Mm-hmm. And so then when there's an artist where their number is higher, Epic. That's just, what I mean? That's what I'm talking about too. That kind of happened in the nerdcore space with brand deals as well. Yeah. So I
and
do
again,
see
that comes from younger artists, younger creators typically who don't know their worth yet. So you can't really blame them.
Or don't have or aren't business savvy.
Yep.
Which is a lot of creators, not just nerdcore musicians.
Yeah.
And it's also hard to be creative and run your company on your own. So it's like, it's no fault to them also.
I think they did. I saw a video of the artist on Twitter that I watched where they talked about how inflation has gone up since these laws about use of graphic design and art were made back in the 30s or something, and how if inflation has not been accounted for with the laws, which further helped their argument, which I would not have thought of. The fact that these laws have not been adjusted for inflation is also pretty bonkers.
There's so much of that.
Yeah. But again, I feel like there's a lot more artists now. I feel like there's a lot more graphic designers. There's a lot more options, which again, how unique is what you're bringing to the table is just can kind of be a douchey but realistic way to look at it, is like how unique is what you're doing.
Well, I think it all comes down to demand.
Yeah.
Because like
it does.
I think that's why I had a hard time saying like a better artist, but like you can't you can't like.
Yeah, it's not really better. It's all different.
It all comes down to taste and complexity and demand, I think, are the aspects there in seeking out art and artists and finding that value.
Yeah.
It's ultimately intrinsic to the person seeking the art. How much do I like this art? And how much does the artist value themselves? And then demand somewhere along the there. And I don't know. It's interesting. It was Twitter's good for bringing up topic points. Talking points.
We need to have hotter takes, though. The artist is wrong. Epic wins.
Well, I think we towed the line in the middle more than anyone else would.
I guess we did. Yeah.
I'm interested. I like the art, and I'd be curious about reaching out for a cool album art. My girlfriend Joey actually has so many artists that she follows, and now I'm gonna probably kind of find someone for an album art and then like a cool poster print. So it's just interesting that this came up and blew up at this time. Look for an album art. We have also Michael, who does pretty much all our illustration and graphic design, and has pretty much for the last 3 or 4 years. So pretty much almost everything is by him. And I'm only really just trying to find a different artist for an album art because I just want like something that's a piece, which he isn't. He is doing, but just like something completely unique. And stylistically different from someone different. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that this came up, and I'm going to be overthinking it now that I reach out to artists and inquire. It's like, oh God, I don't know what's what. I don't want to be blasted on.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll happen. But
that's why I brought up the point is how much exchange went back and forth between this artist and Epic. Because if it was just like one exchange where Epic had the offer and then they just blasted them on Twitter, I strongly disagree with that. Even if I agree with their argument, I disagree with going about it like that way. I hate when people use Twitter just as a
force
platform.
A change. Like maybe Epic will pay artists more, but
that's why I would only support that if they actually did. And it sounds like they did have a fair amount of back and forth, rather than just in use us as an example. If you reached out to an artist and accidentally lowballed them, not maliciously, but because you didn't understand what they're worth, and they just instantly blasted JT Music on Twitter, as opposed to just saying, hey guys, that's a really low offer, and addressing it and then working from there. That is the way to go about it. Actually communicate first. And it does sound like the artist did that. I'm just saying in general, know your worth, but don't just go blasting them. Try to reach an agreement first, and if you can't, then go blast them. If they're going to be assholes, blast them all you want. But
and that's, I have no real fear of anyone blasting off a low offer, because I wouldn't give it a low offer. We would, there's a couple ways to do it. Is you ask their budget, what their budget, what they can allocate, what they charge.
Yeah.
Or you can say, this is what I have set aside. This is my budget. What can I get for that? Or what works for you within that budget? Or there's just classic negotiating, this price, finding in the middle. Like there's ways to do it. But I mean, when you're a big corporation and, people have been doing art jobs for you for that price point for years and no one's budged,
you're just
going to keep throwing it out there and asking. I imagine that's the situation. Yeah. Even if it is, someone down the line, 25-year-old marketing person, art director, whatever, it's still the same case. They're doing what they're doing what's probably been normalized for them in terms of kind of budget and stuff.
Yeah. That being said, if Fortnite wants me to make a song for them, it'll cost $10 million. Yes. So $10 million. You heard that here.
We did a brand deal for them before the game blew up for, I think, $3,500.
Was that all aboard on the battle bus?
Yep.
Let's jump.
Which, that was before they blew up. Whatever. But it's more so like just how far that's come, because like Also, that's what they gave for a brand deal in like 2017 before the game blew up. So there's a thing. Also,
Interesting.
a little problematic there. Then I guess there's more things that like get better perspective on this conflict on behalf of the artists, and we're already leaning towards them, obviously, but just trying to like not gush, but like trying to make it a discussion, I guess, But I do want to talk about the Game Awards.
The Game Awards.
But I didn't watch it, and you didn't watch it.
Nope.
And we're in this industry, and there's a lot of release, and it's a good thing on the kind of tone and the pulse of the industry. But I've enjoyed watching it less and less each year, and I think I'm not an award show guy.
Me neither. I just love the cringe that comes out of it from the awkward moments.
Yeah.
That's all I watch.
Well, I think it's weird because like video games are huge. They're here to stay. They're normalized. They're bigger than movies,
Mm-hmm.
And I think the tone is a little too overcompensating for like validation. It's like it is valid. I don't know, and it feels like the Game Awards
there's still a vibe of we're gamers and
well, not that, but I just feel like the Game Awards' existence is trying to validate the industry
okay
in a weird way, and it's like it's good that we have like the Emmys or the Oscars of video games. Don't get me wrong, it deserves it because it is huge, but I don't know. It just feels like it feels weird. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm glad it exists. I'm not like being a salty bitch about it.
Okay, I think I get what you mean. There is this still tone of like we're valid. We do this too. We can have video games can be art too.
Yeah, I think it might be trying too hard to prove itself when it's like it doesn't need to. Yeah. Like I think that tone made sense or starting off, but it also kind of acted like it was supposed to be there, and I think that's why it blew up so much. But I don't know. I also didn't watch it this year, so maybe it's not even that tone's gone. So that's not a total fair thing for me to say.
I guess it's kind of also like how the term gamer is almost becoming antiquated, just like nerd.
Yeah.
Like nerd and gamer, everybody's a gamer now. Everybody, like your grandma, she's gaming. Even if she's in heaven right now, she's on her Xbox.
Well, I'll walk through
playing
some
with
awards.
Jesus. Playing Xbox with Jesus.
I'm skipping the esports ones. Well, best studio is From Software and Bandai Namco, which is kind of
didn't
publisher
Elden
developer
Ring won all the things.
Stray won best debut indie game, so I think that's a company that's their first game.
I wanted to make a song for that because I love cats. Maybe we'll go back and do that.
Let's see, strategy game Mario Rabbids. So fortunately, my Total War didn't win. I'm a big Total War fan. Stray also won best independent game.
Nice.
Bayonetta 3 won best action game. I've never played those. Score soundtrack, God of War Ragnarok.
Nice.
Art direction, Elden Ring. Esports game, Valorant. That's like, played that for a little bit. It was whatever. Performance, Christopher Judge for Kratos.
Oh, nice.
Kratos. I don't know why I said it like that.
Judge. What a name. Christopher Judge. Boy.
He didn't drop a lot of boys in this so far, but there's a part where he drops it. And it's like, oh, yeah. It just makes it more powerful, yeah.
He said it so much in the first one.
I'm trying to find a multiplayer game of the year. Interesting was Splatoon 3. That's seems like a dumb choice because I feel like I haven't heard about it. I knew it came out, but I feel like more people are playing COD. Multiverses I heard a lot about in the kind of like the buzz, on the internet. And Overwatch 2, I mean, it's kind of a weak choice. Like, why that didn't win. God of War won Best Action Adventure. It's a little bit different than action.
Okay. I'm really excited. I think
my issue is there's too many fucking categories, and a lot of the awarding happens off screen. And it's all just trailer drops. Oh. And to me, it's like, that feels disingenuous to what it is. Maybe that's my issue with the Game Awards. Even though the content is cool, like seeing new stuff drop is cool as a gamer, as someone who likes these things. But it's like
the point of this is to award the stuff that's come out.
Yeah. And there's a lot of weird overlap, like best action game, best action adventure game, best narrative, and it's like, well, if God of War dropped, it's going to win all those, or whatever. So it's just like, I don't know, like I'm saying like a lot, but in the Oscars, it's not typical a thing runs the show or runs the award gamut. Like you had like Lord of the Rings way back when, but typically like, it's pretty. There's a few enough awards, and it's pretty well dispersed. I think was my big thing.
So that each award matters more.
Also, there's an award for most anticipated game. Like, what is that award?
Isn't that just awarding the hype train?
Yeah, it's weird. Role playing Elden Ring, but then
Or maybe I guess wouldn't that be best marketing? Wouldn't that, most anticipated game best marketing? I don't know.
There was best adaptation of a video game to like TV or film, which is that's a cool one. I like that, and I hope that encourages that kind of that keeps happening. But Arcane won.
Oh yeah,
but it
sounds like they made that category for Arcane.
Well, maybe, but there's a lot of strong ones: Cuphead, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, the Uncharted movie, and then there's a Sonic Hedgehog show or movie. Oh, it was the movie.
No,
I guess they counted that as a video game.
Yes, there is a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah, but
interesting.
There's a few more rewards.
Rewards.
Yeah, they're rewards.
The game rewards. You did a good job on God of War. Here's a cookie. I am so excited to. I'm not going to play God of War because I don't have a PlayStation. I'm not a real gamer, but I'm so excited to watch as you guys have probably said this many times before, watch game cutscene movies. And I'm so excited to watch that because I haven't even started a beat for the rap yet. I've got some beats lying around that could work, but I think I want to watch. I'm probably going to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
Most of it. And then I want to start the beat. I really want to, especially hearing that it won best soundtrack. Now I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I want to listen and watch and then start an instrumental for it. I also don't know the story yet. I don't know what the themes and vibes are going to be, but I'm so excited because I absolutely flippin' love the God of War series. Even though I never got a PlayStation in college, I started watching sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but hey, God of War, relevant. I started watching the cutscene movies of God of War 1, 2, and 3. So I used to know those movies like the back of my, or games, like the back of my hand just by nature of watching the cutscenes. So like, I'm a huge God of War fan, even though I haven't actually played the games. Call me a poser if you want. I absolutely love those games. And it's fun watching. Sometimes I'll watch the, like not just the cutscenes, but the full gameplay because it's fun to watch the chain swords and it's just fun to watch. I just love those games so much, and the soundtracks are always larger than life. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm just super excited to see what happens.
I've been playing it. I'm about halfway through it not even halfway through it to my chagrin. I think that's the right use of the word. Like I got like 12 hours in the game. I'm not even halfway through it. It's like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to take me 30 hours to play this single player game. Come on. It's too much.
Long game.
And the gameplay loop is like, I've already experienced the gameplay loop. Like,
oh, you've figured out.
And it's just like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I want to play it. It's good. It's like, it's an annoying, like, this should have been 15 or 20 hours, not 30. And it's kind of that dread of that extra 10 hours of playing it. And again, the gameplay loop, like, for a single directional game, it likes to flirt with like side missions, but it's just more of the same shit, just a different branch, and then you branch right back, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, so 30 hours, like 20 to 30 hours is way too long. And I'm not a slow gamer, I guess. Like my exploration is pretty low. Like I like kind of truck through it in a good way. Mm-hmm. And I'm like behind somehow on the timing, like the window of beating it. So I don't know.
Weird.
And it's frustrating because I love the first one. It's just like, I feel like I've experienced all this game's had to offer gameplay wise. And like, it's a lot of story. It's good story, but it's also like masturbatory, I feel. And like,
oh, you and Joey were talking about something.
And it's like, and not so much like, there's other things with like it being too on the nose with saying stuff. I don't care if a game says stuff, and I agree with the things it's saying, but it's like very cringely on the nose. But anyways, also, what was I saying before that though? It's just like, storytelling in the video gaming medium has progressed. We're so good at it. We are rivaling movies. Like all that, like the technical marvel of it. And it's just like, but there's a game here. I want to play a game.
Yeah.
And the gameplay isn't bad, but it's just like, oh, we are making stories. And it's like, cool, dude. You make cool stories, but this is a video game too. And like, I don't know. Again, it just feels like there's too much. No one was there to say no on some ideas. No one was there to trim the fat. No one was there to be like, but this is a game too.
Yeah.
And I think,
it's a game first. I think that's important to remember. For games like that, it's a game first. I think the only games that, well, not the only games, but for an example, like Telltale games, I know are very story driven, and the game aspect is kind of minimal to the story, right?
Video game novels or graphic, whatever they're called.
Yeah,
visual novels.
Like, what's that horror game where it's like a point and click adventure, basically? You know those games that where it's
I mean,
like
Dream Daddy.
Dream Daddy,
no,
but like there's another one where it's like it has a bunch of mainstream Hayden Panettiere's in it, and like it's a horror game,
like
Outlast or something. No, it's
Before
Dawn, Until Dawn.
Yeah,
Before Dawn. That's
Detroit
a kind
Become
of it's story. It's almost like a movie, an interactive movie.
But that's the point.
But that's the point. Whereas a game like God of War, unless they're completely changing it up, and it doesn't, it's still God of War. It's a game first. It's hack and slash, and then if you can incorporate a cool, touching story, that's great. Just like with bring it back to BioShock. BioShock has an incredible story, incredible world, but it is a game first. It is fun to play. I think that's important. You know, as me, I am the ultimate armchair video game developer right now.
Yeah. Well, again,
but it's important. It's supposed to be a game first, and then you can have a cool story.
The game's fun, but I feel like I can see that I've done it all, and I'll get like a couple new power ups, or I'm gonna get different arrow types that interact with different barriers so I can shoot them with that arrow, so I can go through that wall.
Yeah,
like just stupid shit. Like it's like I don't see the game varying up like past that. And also another thing is the game isn't as like gory or like brutal as I want it to be.
Dude, are they softening up Kratos? Dude,
no, because like there's like dismemberment, like arms and heads, but that's all it is. It's like this, like the game was known for just the brutal QTE, like mutilation of monsters and enemies, you know. And this game is lacking in that, and so then it just becomes like a kind of random hack and not random, but just like I don't know, the visceral isn't there.
I can hear
like
the
punching like Hercules' head into a pulp and seeing what that looks like, you know, in God of War 3.
But that's
crazy.
Kratos is getting older, and he's finding a different path. That's what the developers would say. He's finding his new path.
It's fine
he's
for him.
hiding his scars.
But
from
when you're
his son.
fighting someone, you're fighting them
He
brutally.
doesn't want to be brutal and violent. But it sounds like there still is violence. Like it's
It's still
not
very
like,
violent.
It's not like Kratos has like hung up the swords and like I choose a new path. Which hey, that could be kind of cool to see that. That would subvert an expectation.
Well,
but
he kind of is. He's trying to like avoid stuff, and you'll see. But
they started that theme in the last game. Is that he was like kind of starting to atone because he did some mega fucked up shit in those first 3 games.
Yeah,
he was kind of the bad guy. Sure, the gods did a few scummy things to him, but he went and massacred all of them. Like, sorry, Kratos. Like,
and I'll see how the story's interesting. The gameplay is fine. It's just there's so much of it, and I know I'm in the minority because this game's obviously winning all these awards and people are fucking raving about it on Twitter. And I don't know if I'm jaded or not. And I accept that that's probably possibly a reality, but like I also think my points are fair.
I think so too.
So I don't know.
I know exactly what you mean.
I'll finish the game too, and I'll let you guys know. But that's where I'm at now, halfway through.
I know exactly what you mean when you reach a point where you see through the illusion of the game and you get the cycle you're on.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can hope for a game is that cycle that they create, that kind of like go fetch this, kill this boss guy of this area, go to next area, rinse and repeat.
It's also
they keep it fun so that you keep wanting to repeat it. But
Doom.
It sounds like Doom. Yeah.
Doom has a fun gamification of mechanics, like punch to get health, shoot guys with this one to get more ammo, or like whatever weird shit like that. And they do try to do that in God of War.
Really?
And it's not like there'll be like, here's a shiny wall. When it's like radiant energy or something. When you throw your axe at it, it'll bounce and do more damage. And that's like there for that's there for one level. Cool. I guess that mixes it up. And then there's...
and they don't keep it.
Yeah.
Because see, in Doom, they keep it. They keep adding steps to the dance. It's like a dance, and you keep learning new steps. And then by the end of the game, you're doing the dance.
Yeah, it's just fun. Yeah. And the progression in Doom, gameplay and mechanics-wise, is a masterclass. But in God of War, there's also like, when you see a blue circle radiate, you want to double tap block because then you can break their something. But then when it's yellow, you got to time the parry, and then you can counterattack. And when it's red, you got to dodge. And like they're like adding these little mechanics with it's like a little ring that pops, like Spidey sense. And to me, it's like one thing like light attack, parry, heavy attack, dodge. Cool. that's fine. But to me, that they added the little double blue ring for double click block to do this particular bash only on this one to break their what's the material that the bridge is made out of, that Heimdall and like Thor the movies,
the rainbow something,
something
the
frost.
Bifrost.
Bifrost,
The
yeah, like
Bifrost.
the Bifrost energy. They're about to unleash a Bifrost energy attack, so you got to double block to stagger them. It's just weird, and to me, it's like a very shallow and bad attempt of varying the gameplay loop. Again, the weird bouncy walls, and I don't know. I'll see how it goes. I'm committed to finishing it.
I'm gonna
just so I can
skip all that because I'm just gonna watch the game.
So you'll be fine because you're just watching the story.
Yeah.
But
which is funny because here I say, oh, I'm just here for the story, but I do agree with you and what I already said. It should be a game first. I think that's important to remember for most of these games. Yes, games can absolutely be art. The stories have become so cinematic on their own, but it's important for them to be fun first.
Yeah, and I think that's part of, like, the Game Awards does recognize, like, ongoing games and, like, games that focus gameplay, but it's always, like, best narrative, best blah, 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 best, like, the game of the year is typically always going to be the, like, story game that's like, we have our best picture. Look at us, Oscars.
Yeah,
Look at us, snobby journalists. Like, we are like you. To me, that's the tone. And that's what I don't like.
You just nailed it. What you were trying to describe earlier, that like self-seeking validation.
Yeah.
That's the vibe that you're getting, is that they put, and maybe that's just where we're at with the games industry right now. They're putting story and presenting it as this piece of art, like the Oscars first, as opposed to like, hey, these are games, fun. That's the point. That's the point. That is ultimately the point of video games, is escapism and fun.
That's also the point of movies, but also they are treated as art. So it's like
more so with video games because you're the one doing it. You're the one making the fun happen. So it should be, games or movies are more just a presentation and you can interpret, whereas games, you are telling the story. You're driving the story, or you have the illusion of driving the story, which is why BioShock was so good, because it was a good game and it stuck it in your face and it said, you think you're in control because this is a game? You're not. Would you kindly subscribe?
And
also,
rise.
if you want me to make a song for your game company, it'll be $20 million. I've upped my price. It's now $20 million.
Well, we can wrap this up by Elon Musk announced.
Elon Musk. Let's
hold your
it.
breath.
Here we go.
It's just funny. It's something funny to talk about. That like there's like 1.5 billion usernames that are just truly inactive for years, and says he's going to free them up. And so you just tell your whole story, the whole
Dude,
thing, the account, like what you're tweeting. It's just so funny. Like the way you use your time on it. I think people enjoy it.
I hate Twitter. I do not like it. I never have. I made a Twitter account many years ago, and I just never really decided to get active on it. I just always felt
Probably
like
for the
it
best.
was kind of a toxic place.
Yeah.
But it is what the name implies. Twitter, it's a bunch of birds just yapping at each other. And I get why it can be a good thing too. I know I'm not just going to sit here and be a total Twitter hater, but I've never liked it myself. And part of the reason is somebody took the Skullcruncher 13 username back in 2009, like right when we got started. Yeah. And then somebody else took my alternate username, which is Cruncher of Skull, both spelled with a K. Somebody took that one too. So I decided to make a burner Twitter account recently, which is just Cranial Crunch. Nobody had taken that, also spelled with a K. And I've just been tweeting at Skullcruncher13 and Cruncher of Skull, just kind of politely harassing them to give me they're both inactive, but I've just been tweeting at them, hey, can I have your username, and tweeting stupid, like dumb joking shit like, hey, did you see the Pats game? Like, that's all I do on Twitter is tweet at Skullcruncher13 and Cruncher of Skull because I want their usernames, and now I might be able to get them. So if you're watching this, I know some asshole out there is going to be like, oh, now I'm going to go try to get it.
Just don't do that. That's like,
don't steal it. I just want it. I'm never going to tweet. It's the principle of the thing. I want Skullcruncher13. And that dude,
one follower, Dan Bull.
And because I told Dan I had a burner account, and I told him what I do. I was like, you should follow me, and he did. So I've only got Dan Bull following me.
There's another, like people taking our names. So like we were JT Machinima, also verified, which was cool on Twitter, but we switched to JT Music, and so we lost that verification, which kind of sucks because now who knows what happened in the future with it. But anyways, some fan took up JT Machinima, and they had our logo, and there was like not enough differentiating it being a fan account. And like it tricked me. Like on a glance, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't tweet that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was like, hey, keep the username, whatever you want. Just please like put like a fan account. Make it obvious. Can maybe just switch the profile picture up too, just because it's so close.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I got you, and didn't do anything. And so I just said, hey, how's this going? Can you please just do the things I asked? It'd be really helpful. And they said, oh yeah, sure, I got you. And then they just completely changed their whole profile and everything. And I was like,
That's
okay,
so weird.
that's not what I asked. So I scooped up, and now we have JT Machinima. So,
Well,
that's just
hopefully, I really want to sweep in and sweep in on Skull Crunchy 13. Who knows? Maybe I'll get more active on Twitter, on social media. If I did, it'd probably be on Instagram.
there is I don't know if it's always existed, but Elon Musk did tweet like, oh, push the stars in the top corner, and that'll switch to chronological and your follows only. So what Twitter originally was, instead of like a algorithmic thing of like people you don't follow and shit like that.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, God, so I've had that on now. It's like refreshing.
He also, I saw that he said you will see if you're shadow banned, which I've never been that active on Twitter, so I don't know what it's like or really know the extent of shadow banning, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like he said that now you'll be able to see what happened and why and how to rectify it,
Yeah.
which is
I'd
kind
be
of
curious.
cool.
I don't think we're shadow banned, but like our Twitter account hasn't grown in 5 years.
Yeah.
And
We got to
why hasn't
more
it
hot
grown?
takes.
You know, we've grown like millions. I don't know how to grow it. Like it's weird. It's weird that it stayed at like I think it's 46,000. Like why has it stayed there? Is there a high churn? Like every time you tweet, you lose a bunch and then you gain a bunch. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's weird.
Huh.
Twitter's weird. And that's like that was a sigh outside of the Elon Musk stuff. That's just about Twitter. Like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I like it, but I hate it.
Mhm.
And
It's
I think
important
that's how
to
a lot
have.
of people feel.
Even though I hate it, I get why it's there, and I think it is important to have. But as long as we can get all those bots out of there,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yep.
Russian bots. That's not a conspiracy, right? Like it's known that there are Russian bots all over Twitter trying to stir up shit.
but
That's not tinfoil.
In the same way, there's American stuff like the cyber. There's cyber battlefields being waged at all times against like potential enemies and allies alike. That's just the way it is.
Well, I'd rather get American propaganda than Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's all problematic in its own way, but at least it's coming from within.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And yeah, America's got its problems. We've got stuff to work on. But compared to Russia,
Well, that's a whole can of worms. But
she's going to see how long I could do that.
but yeah, thank you guys for hanging out and listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We had a wonderful time in Phoenix, even though we shit all over it. Just kidding. It was. I would like to go back there.
I definitely go back and enjoy
Best Mexican food ever, and
the food and the views, and not just so much suburbia, which again was kind of not the point, but like that was just a byproduct of why we're there.
Yeah.
But again, I like to
And-
always fantasize, could I live here?
yeah.
And no, not in Phoenix.
But more importantly, hanging out with some really cool
Yeah.
dudes. Like for me, now that I've started to for me recently, I've been trying to pay more attention to the sonic quality when I'm making a song and like the actual texture of like, oh, does this bass have a cool texture? And like I'm starting to care more about those things. So like hearing Charlie's productions and like seeing him work and how his ear just hears things that I will probably never be able to hear was really cool and inspiring. It was inspiring to see
wizard.
Mega Ran 2 work as well too, and they're both, I would say, equally as talented, just in different ways.
Mega Ran
It
made an
was-
earworm.
Yeah, he did.
He works
was,
with the producer and he writes, and I think he does ideas, but he has a producer he works with at a studio, and he just kind of like, I got an idea, and he just like. The way they collabed and made like a super mega earworm that we were just like humming and singing the rest of the week.
It was really cool, and it was also cool to hear him. I'm not going to say specifically what he wrote or what he was talking about, but he was talking about, to sum it up, how he wants to take his music in a new direction and how it's kind of daunting to him, but also inspiring to like challenge himself, which I loved. Like hearing that as an artist, I'd try to do that sometimes. It was cool to hear him do that. And then we got to watch him on the fly experiment with that direction that he just talked about. Was so cool. And he nailed it. After he got done recording, I was like, dude, what you were talking about with your producer before, you nailed it with that hook. That's all he did was make this hook and kind of fine tune it and record it.
He builds his songs around a hook.
Yeah, which was really cool. That's how he gets his theme, and it's just so cool to watch.
I think
other
Fable
artists
does the
work.
same thing too.
Yeah,
Because
he
for
does.
you, hook chorus is usually last.
Usually last. Well, it depends. Usually the beat always comes first, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'll start coming up with a theme. Usually I come up with a chorus in the car. Usually I'll be like jamming to the beat. I'll have it on loop and listening into my car, and then something will hit me.
Yeah.
But it varies. But it's cool. It's always cool to see how other people work. Because some people just I just kind of try to start an idea and let the lightning strike where it's going to strike. And some people like Charlie seems to have a more regimented process, which is just cool. It's cool to see. Yeah, it's inspiring. But yeah.
I hope you guys enjoy this varied podcast, super contentious JT Music, edgelord.
And if you want
I
us
hope
to
it was
make-
interesting.
If you want us to make a song for your game company, it costs $30 million. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Love you guys.
It's true. No, it isn't. But, all right. Bye.
Bye, guys.